hope you guys are enjoying this. Let's see. Looking at this one. And let me get all my times right here. How we doing on here? You're hearing my squeaking chair. Alright, I'll get out of WD-40. Okay. Alright. Yeah, empowered women. Yeah, you're the only woman that comes on the show, Donna. Everyone else is scared to death of me. Matter of fact, you can read what I just wrote to one of them on the on my THC Ministries page on that blog. Alright, we got 21 minutes. And let's see, hello, who we got here? I got a caller here with a block number. Normally I don't take block numbers. You want to talk to me? Or you want me to hang up on you? Can't hear you. I'll take one call and you can't speak. Block number. Scammer. Kiss my ass in. Okay. We'll hang up on that one. Okay. We still got everything else up, right? Usage up. Yeah, tax. Alright. Right here, let me check one more thing. See, we got anybody having any intelligence on the talk show? Yeah, not much. Uncle's still in there. Okay, I guess everybody's just listening. Alright. We got a few more minutes. Let me finish the story. My character, Lucifer. And I gave him that name 40 years ago, folks. Okay, let's see here. Before touching him, he's just walked up. He's found Tet Lord, his captain, the being that we considered a god for thousands of years, said before touching him, I removed my jacket. I didn't want to spoil the spotless white robes. Even in death he was massive. It took all my strength to lift him from the chair and carry him to his cabin off the control room. Laying him on his bed, I stared at him for fully 5 minutes as silent tears ran down my cheek. This was not the ending I had envisioned. I felt none of the hatred that had welled up in my soul in the past. The quest that had driven me was over. I had found my grail, but no joy or satisfaction. I had found the foundation of every legend, of every religion. I now possessed the greatest secret in the universe. I now held the key to power beyond mortal man's comprehension. I had access to knowledge forbidden man for centuries. I had won the greatest game ever played, but I felt nothing but emptiness and loneliness. Returning to the control room, like misty ghosts, the almost ancestral memories flooded my consciousness. Sit down in the throne-like captain's chair, touch this, and the craft would rise silently, responsively, immediately to an altitude above the highest satellite. Touch there, and a laser beam would carve the greatest stone into an engraved portal. Another touch, and it would be lifted, transported, and transplanted with micromillimeter accuracy. The same button would part seas, smash walls, and destroy cities. I touched nothing. Instead, I walked over and sat down at the seat he had died in. I opened the book he had been writing in. The entries were a combination of pictographs and ruins no modern man had ever seen. There were no more than 2 or 3 archaeologists that could have translated it. Opening the book, I read. I was mad once. Only now, after so many years, can I see clearly. I'm afraid it's too late to undo all I've done. I hope that someday someone will be able to read this chronicle without their being blinded and prejudiced by the chain of events I, in my madness, started. Under the circumstances, I suppose any man might have made the same errors, followed the same path. Still, I do not record this in an effort to seek forgiveness or even pity. By the time anyone is capable of truly understanding the world I came from, I will have been long dead, my bones dust, hidden from all eyes in a tomb that contains all the knowledge of the most advanced civilization in the world, a civilization that just died in spite of all of our technological skills, all of our mental achievements. I'm not a scientist. I'm an old man, alone with my memories. My younger days were spent in the same pursuits as most men, women, travel, excitement. I was one of the fortunate ones, born into a world rich in the material things so treasured by man, a world without war. The secret of near immortality was ours, yet from my birth I knew the shadow of fear, a fear I did not feel as strongly as my father and his generation because of its ever-present nearness. In fact, after adolescence, I spent my life preparing for impending doom. My scientific colleagues had other names for it, the celestial conjunction, but the members of my crew simply called it the end of the world as we knew it. For over 250 years, everyone had known the exact date that the end would occur. It really began for me a week before the day of conjunction. I just left Isis, my wife, at our home to do some last-minute packing. I had one last meeting at the Temple of Higher Learning before we left. I was in no hurry. This was quite possibly the last time I would be able to walk the shaded paths of the most beautiful city on earth. Long ago, we learned to live in harmony with nature, and I breathed in the fragrance of 100 types of blooming flowers. I can still remember the chattering of the monkey and the squirrels in the trees lining the way. Through the thick growths of shrubs and flowers, I could see the vacant, desolate-looking homes of my neighbors. Most of them had left already. There were not more than 30,000 of us left on Earth. There were our more unfortunate neighbors, of course. I spent over 50 years before the end trying to educate them and prepare them for the coming Holocaust, but I had been unable to convince myself we were all of the same origin, that we were all Homo sapiens. I imagine if their ancestors had been the one to discover the longevity drug 5,000 years ago instead of us, they would be the ones leaving for the stars today, and we would be the poor, frightened savages left behind to take our chances. I strolled by the spaceport in time to see the last of the ferries taking off, with its load of colonists destined to spread the seed of mankind to the far reaches of the galaxy. A one-way trip. A last grasp at the survival of a race. Up above were the gigantic interstellar liners. At 2 o'clock they would activate the drives that would push them to speeds near that light. If we'd had only more time, I'm sure we would learn the secret of faster-than-light travel. Then it would have been possible for the colonists to turn around in the event after the conjunction that there was still an Earth. But we hadn't. And we couldn't take the chance of letting the ships stay in the neighborhood of the solar system. There was no way we could predict whether the sun would go nova in a chain reaction, and nobody has ever recorded the effects of worlds in collision. The silver ship floated gently out of sight in the clouds. Not sure of my feelings, I turned my eyes toward the 4 mighty ships left on the empty-looking fields. Shining silver, circular ships, each of them measured over 100 feet across. They had been jokingly called missionary missiles to my sergeant, the chariot of the gods, referring to the way some of the natives deified us. Over the last 50 years, we've been traveling all over the globe in an attempt to prepare the neighboring people for the coming catalysm. We violated 5,000 years of isolation from our fellow members of the human race. We've been forced to endure the ridicule of people who felt nothing but contempt for the less advanced races of our globe. In the final analysis, we pointed out we could not be sure who would survive. Therefore, it was our duty to try to ensure the knowledge that we'd gained would not perish. We could not let the human race sink into savagery. We also did quite well financially, trading our technical knowledge and assistance for a variety of agricultural products grown in other regions of the world. It was a noble cause, but I remembered wondering at the time if I had sacrificed the lives of my wife and my crew by choosing to remain on Earth. My crew had volunteered to stay with me to the end. They were in the ship now. The balance of the population had decided to remain on their home planet, huddled in their homes, held by a territorial imperative, hoping against reason that the Earth would survive, and in doing so, spare them. I was counting on it too, but I had the advantage and safety of a craft that was impervious to gravity or the elements. I had every edge our technology could give us. Reluctantly, I tore my eyes from my ship, walked across the broad plaza to the spaceport and the temple. Normally, people were bustling to and fro, lovers sitting on their park benches. Today, only 2 figures were on the mile-square plaza. They were setting the coast to intercept me. As they came closer, I recognized them as the 2 natives that had come with us on the last trip into Egypt. The tall, broad-shouldered one we called Gil, short for Gilgamesh, which was was somewhat of a celebrity among his people. Gabe had met him, been so impressed he'd requested permission to bring him back. It seems that his people thought that Gil was one of the gods. As a matter of fact, he did bear a striking resemblance to Luce, but no one had the nerve to suggest a thing, and Luce wasn't about to admit to anything. Gil's mind was exceptionally quick to grasp concept. He had all the qualities of a born leader. He and Gabe became fast friends. They both appeared to be about the same age, but Gabe was 280 while Gil was only about 20. I was a little concerned that Gabe had let him wander off this close to takeoff time. His companion is a friend, a servant named Inky, a short, stocky youth, typical of his race. Inky followed Gil around like a little puppy, but he could be transformed into a raging bull if he thought Gil was in danger. Near me, he always seemed to be in a state of religious ecstasy. Although I was running late for the meeting, I stopped and accepted the proffered pipe this Gil always carried. He kept it filled with his personal stash. When I inhaled, I wondered if perhaps his people hadn't been keeping the best for themselves and giving us the part they normally throw away. Maybe they weren't as stupid as most people like to think. Gil faced me with respect, but none of the awe that was prevalent in Inky's attitude. "Captain Lord," he said, after I had passed the pipe back to him and completed the little ceremony, "I'd like to request permission to join you in the last day, sir. I promise not to be a hindrance. I'll do my best to be useful." He stood straight and tall, his eyes only an inch below my gaze, a thing that most members of the backward race are able to do. I suppose that I do present a rather unnerving sight. My hair and beard are long, bushy, white snow tops off at 6'4" makes me look old, wise, and terrible when I'm angry. I'm not, at least I wasn't, not back then. That was over 5,000 years ago. I was only 330. I was prematurely gray, but I was still sane and not terrible at all then. I put my hand on Gil's shoulder. Not only did he seem like a good gesture to make, it helped steady me. I find it hard to believe he could smoke that stuff all day long and still be able to stand up. Although he had not yet mastered mind-to-mind communication, I almost felt as if he were one of us. "I'd be delighted to have you aboard my ship, Gil," I told him. He beamed back, stammered his thanks. I told him to rush back to the ship to aid Gabe and the other angels, as I call the ones who've earned their wings, in last-minute loaning. I braced myself as he raced back to the ship and turned back to the meeting. I got more than a few dirty looks from the other captains and Archie, the resident scientist, when I finally entered the conference room. My best friend and co-captain, the only member of my crew, wasn't afraid to stand up to me. Loose Arch eased the tension. "Ted Lord, the only man who would dare to be late for the end of the world," he said with a smile. It didn't get much of a laugh, but it did allow me to slide in the seat next to him quietly, while everyone gave him dirty looks for his poor taste. Luce didn't care. He always had a smile on his face. He and I had grown up together. I was a year older than him, but he was one of those lucky people that would never have a problem, although I don't consider it a problem, with his hair turning white. He sported a mustache and goatee. He never dated, but he always seemed to have a flock of women around him when we were in port. How he's able to find such beautiful creatures among the dumpy, plain native women, I'll never know. That's why we nicknamed him Lucky. As Archie spoke up, "Ted, we are counting quite heavily on you 4 men," nodding his head to include the other 3 captains and their mates, "to preserve the knowledge we've accumulated over the years. We've known for 250 years that the planets Mars and Venus would approach Earth's orbit in the week to come. We know it'll be close, but we do not know how to calculate exactly how close. The resulting contact may completely destroy our world. Escaping that, we can be sure that the ensuing upheavals may destroy most of the sentinel life on this planet. We've provided for you and the men and women of your crew the optimum survival craft for a collision between planets. It's your task to survive and lead the surviving population of the world along the path of civilization. If some of you should survive but your ship was lost, we have established 3 libraries and structures calculated to survive the catastrophes. He pointed out locations in T, Egypt, and one in Asia. And then it'll be up to you to make your way there, establish yourself with the keys to the civilization. It is hoped, of course, that with a miracle we'll survive here also. Even now, the destruction has begun. We report that the meteor shower started, the space station has been destroyed. I can only urge you to get to your ships as soon as possible. We stood as one man. Old Arch looked at us, his face struggling to retain his stern countenance. I hope one day we will meet again, gentlemen. Goodbye, good luck. He turned and was out of the room quickly. We were out of our shelves and rushing to our respective ships. Luce fell in step with me, explained there had been a little more, waved an envelope containing details and instructions. I think old Archie just wanted to say goodbye to us, the products of his brainchild, Luce said with a thought. Archie had been the man that started the program. It was late afternoon. Out of habit, Luce and I looked up. In the evening light, you could see him plainly. Mars, to the primitive, the bloody god of war. Odd how well the name seemed to fit. The god of war bent on destroying Earth in his battle with the planet Venus. Venus would make her entry into the ballroom of the skies, or battleground if you prefer, from the west a little later. Tonight they would both be here, two huge, unwinking, unrelenting orbs in the midnight sky. Mars, a bloody, glaring red, a piercing, unwavering eye bent on destruction. Venus, cloudy, mysterious, her gases trailing behind her like a shimmering gown, changing her appearance often like a woman. Sometimes she appeared in the sky as a serpent breathing fire. The night skies were indeed a wonder. Even the brightness of our own moon paled in the unearthly beauty of the hurtling celestial spheres, a beauty that masked the death and destruction that the heavenly messengers brought. We were walking back to my house to pick up Issy when a sharp thought from Luce turned my eyes upward. Even in the light I could see them plainly. Meteors, 8 of them, in rows of 2, perfect geometric procession. They were close, probably just reaching the upper reaches of the atmosphere and the vastness of the sky. They gave the illusion of a team of fiery steeds pulling Mars across the sky. The phenomenon lasted for about 15 seconds after the pattern deteriorated. The meteors hit the thicker gases. Then, like a team of horses whose traces had been broken, they came rushing to Earth in disorganized confusion. The display must have been seen by the whole northern hemisphere. I wondered what kind of explanation the natives would have for it. The awe-inspiring exhibition had so caught our eye that we did not notice the sky for almost a minute. Dimly, like fireworks set off in the daytime, we began to perceive thousands of fireflecks in the afternoon sky. We were almost hypnotized by the advanced bombardment of our planet by another until the results exploded around us. The concussion caused by a white-hot meteor meeting the 2-foot-thick stone slab, the kind that covered the huge plaza, knocked us off our feet, jarred us back to an awareness of our danger. Fortunately, we weren't injured outside of some minor bruises from resulting debris. The meteors were striking all over the city. We could hear the explosions. They struck houses, and the flames were already springing up in various wooded spots. Terrified cries of the arboreal animals reached our ears. "Get to the ship," my thought ran out. But Lucifer was already heading toward the spaceport of Dead Road. "Turn on the repeller field, stay inside till I get back with AC." I added almost needlessly as I ran back in the direction of my home. "Luce is the most competent officer I have ever known. If there had been another ship, he would have had command of it." I mentally cursed myself for leaving Issy behind, wishing that my mind was effective over long distances, when a huge meteor came screaming down to strike somewhere ahead of me with a terrible explosion. It seemed as if a piece of it had exploded in my brain. I stumbled, almost fell, but didn't. I kept running. There was a terrible emptiness inside my head. I knew what had happened, but I would not let myself believe it until I got to the burning wreckage of our home. I refused to let myself believe she was dead until my frantic digging in that smoldering rubble turned up a ring of hers that had been given to her by the ruler of Egypt. She had vowed to never take it off. Said it's the least she could do for a man that addressed her as a goddess, and she hadn't. Her hand and a part of her arm were still attached to it, burned beyond recognition as a part of a human being. I believe this is the point. I went mad. Oh, it didn't show. Not right away. Routines of command, too lean, strongly ingrained to let me go all the way. Perhaps it would have been better if I'd become a catatonic or a screaming madman. At least then my crew would have known. As it turned out, only Luce knew for sure, and in my madness, I ruined him. Madness and power sometimes go hand in hand. In a state of shock, I found my way back to the ship. Lucifer must have picked up on my anguish thoughts because he met me at the ramp, cutting the repeller long enough to get me aboard. Gently, very gently, he took the burned, bloody remains of my wife from me while placating me with cooling, soothing, calming thoughts. I didn't even sense a medic until he hit me with a tranquilizer. I followed Luce quietly as she led me to my cabin. I awoke later to the unmistakable hum of a scout ship in motion. I lay on my bed for a while, keenly agonizingly aware of the absence of my beloved Isis, who had been a part of my mind, of my life for years. I might have withdrawn completely into a catatonic state if Luce had not come in at that particular time. Come on, he said, his thoughts scathing. You can't allow her death to affect you this way. You've got to realize there are going to be millions alive lost in this before it's all over, regardless of the fact she was your wife. She's just another of the casualties now. You've got a full contingent of men and women who are depending on you to get them through this alive and lead the survivors. Now, are you going to lay there and feel sorry for yourself, or are you going to act like a leader? If you're not, I'll take over as captain. Somebody's got to do it. Looking back, I can see now he used the words and tone to shock me back into action and sanity. It did not quite have the results he had hoped. He succeeded in bringing me out of my apathy, but it aroused the irrational anger in me that lasted for thousands of years. I felt he was conspiring to take my ship away, and my anger surged out of him. His deeply tanned face paled at the vehemence of my thoughts. I think he expected that kind of reaction. You will not take over my ship, I declare, nor will you try to undermine the crew's respect for me. I will lead, you will follow my orders. We will survive, but as for them, I wave my arm to indicate inhabitants of land surrounding our country. I could care less. All of their lives put together would not be worth the life of Isis. With that, I left him standing there and strode to the captain's chair. He followed me into the control room, and everything took on a semblance of normality, but underneath the tension remained. Okay, that's it. You can read the rest of it. And that is part of the new novel that I'm working on. If I can raise the money, sell the other books that I've already written in order to do this. In order to do this, folks. If you go and make a donation, if you order some of the books that I've already written, you can read a lot of this already up here. I have a wonderful lady that is retyping this, and so we're getting this done. We're getting done. I wrote it 40 years ago. I'm re-editing it now, and I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for listening. All right, I'm stopping all of this.
Call recording has been completed.
Okay. God bless all of you. Have a happy new year. We got a new year to start off. Help me start it out right, okay?
Yeah.